Okay, we might be live. All right, are we live?
I think we are.
I think we are, and I hear an audio. So just let's make sure we're good to go. But you think so? We're confirmed. All right. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of Everything Expedition Live. I'm Tiffany Dent, travel advisor, explorer, and CEO of Tiffany Dent Dream Vacations. So, this is not your average travel chat. This is a front row seat to the most fascinating corners of the world and a rare opportunity to hear directly from the visionaries shaping the future of expedition travel. So, over the past 2 years, as I've grown my travel business, I've been cultivating relationships with the world's leading brands in expedition cruising, river cruising, safari, and immersive travel. And these are experts from the field to executive leaders who are redefining what it means to explore. And these are the people who are literally setting the standards for immersive, responsible, and transformational travel. And now you get to meet them too. So, Everything Expedition Live was really created to demystify this type of travel and spark your curiosity to connect with the people and the stories that really make it so unforgettable. So, whether it's Antarctica, the Galápagos, Africa, each of these episodes is really aimed to give you the insider access to experiences that most travelers don't even know exist. And quite frankly, before getting into the travel industry, there are a lot of things that I didn't even know existed. So I'm just so excited for this series and to share my knowledge also with everyone. So my goal is that you will walk away feeling inspired and informed, and more importantly, connected to a community of like-minded people. So come for the content, stay for the community. Whether you are expedition curious or you are full on into this type of travel, you are in the right place. And I'm so glad you're here. So, as you know, this is the premiere episode, and I could not be more excited to introduce my first guest, my friend and colleague in the travel industry, Julia from HX Expeditions. Yay, welcome, Julia.
Thank you so much, Tiffany. And I'm so honored that you chose me as your first guest. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And excited to go on this journey with you too.
Oh, yay. Well, before Julia gets into a lot of the amazing content we're going to hear from today, I got to tell you a little bit about her because I'm sure she will not tell you how amazing she is. But she is Julia Swenda. She is the Director of National and Strategic Accounts at HX Expeditions, and she is truly a global explorer. So her love for travel began actually at 14 when she toured Europe with the youth orchestra, which is so cool, and it hasn't slowed down since. So she studied abroad at a semester at sea, and now she is up to 7 continents in over 70 countries, which is just insane. Like, you are truly, Julia, goals right now for life, because I thought my number was high, but your number is high. So you're what I'm aiming to do. So she knew that travel was more than a passion, it was really a calling. So she's actually worked as a travel advisor at Flight Center and led sales for GoGo Vacations. And today she brings her industry expertise and adventurous spirit to HX, where she's been for the past 2.5 years. So whether she's exploring the polar regions or sharing her knowledge with travel professionals like me, she's all about meaningful, active, and immersive travel. And I just cannot wait for you to hear her insights and for this conversation. So, Julia, I'm so excited for this, and thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you. And really, travel is incredible. It is transformational. It does change lives, and that's really our slogan. When you see when I get into my presentation, you will see that. So, change the way you see the world. And I know we'll get my slide up there in a little bit. But thank you so much for this. I'm excited to go into what HX is. Let's see. I will go ahead and share that with you as well. But you know what? Travel is the greatest gift you could give yourself as well as anybody else. It is the best thing that you can give to anybody. So, Anna, if you could help us out there for a little bit and get my slides up there on the screen.
Oh, awesome.
Great. Thank you so much.
I want to start with one question before we sort of jump into the detail here. So I know you know this because this is your world every day. And if you follow any sort of travel news, expedition travel and expedition cruising is one of or the fastest growing segment of travel out there. And I think a lot of people there's a segment that I think know about it, and there's a segment that are sort of just hearing about what this type of travel is. Why do you think it is growing so fast and there is so much interest in traveling this way?
So that's a great question. And people don't realize that this type of travel is even available. But, most people think when they go traveling, they want to go to Europe, right? They've been to Europe 10 plus times, or maybe even once, but that's, what they want to do. And of course, there are incredible places all over the world. But for the people who have been everywhere, they're kind of like, well, what's next? I didn't even know I could go to Antarctica. What's the Galápagos? I've never heard of that. Or the Northwest Passage. I mean, I can tell you tons and tons of our destinations are these hard to reach places that people don't even know are available to them. Just like when you had said before, when you got into the industry, you didn't even know that some of these destinations. And that's what I'm so excited to talk to you and to talk to others about, these incredible destinations that are possible. And, you can add to your list, as I was doing. I just got back from Greenland. And so I'm excited to talk to you guys about that today as well. So I still have that passion. And, it's not even been a week that I've been home.
I love it. And I can sort of see it coming from you, right? And there's nothing like experiencing it firsthand. And I love that you're going to get to share that too with the audience today. And, kind of your real world experience, firsthand pictures. And you kind of touched on it. And I think you're going to get into it too, is, not only are people interested in this kind of travel, but I think there's a lot of misconceptions about how people travel this way, or how do I even get to some of these places, and what is my experience going to be like on board? So I cannot wait for you to get into all of that.
We're going to talk about all the things, and the biggest misconceptions, as you put, and the questions that we get all the time. And if I don't get to everything, please ask the questions. Tiffany has the bat line, as you can say. We talk often, so she can always contact me or any of my team members. So we can always get those answers for you. But let's get into a little bit, because the first question I get is not only what is expedition, but who is HX? And a little bit of history about HX is that we were started in 1896. So you can see the picture of our very first ship. And if you follow that red line, we left from Hammerfest. And this ship was captained by Otto Svederup, that gentleman that's pictured there. And we went to the northern archipelago of Svalbard. And we were the first to take paying passengers. Before, expedition was only for scientists or explorers, but they had never taken paying passengers. So we consider ourselves the founders of expedition travel by taking the first paying passengers to go and explore that incredible northern archipelago. And we still do that today. So that's really cool. We are known as HX. So if you ever see that and you're wondering why, you're going to learn all about us today and what we offer. Now, the other question I get is, what is expedition cruising? Now, most people think of cruising as the big ships with thousands of people and casinos and Broadway shows and 20 plus restaurants. And if that's what you're looking for, you're not in the right place. because what we offer is that you're going to be going up close and personal with nature. Our ships are getting you to the destination. So if your dream is to kayak in waters that you're pictured here and be close to nature, the ice, the penguins, the whales, it is nature, so you never know what's going to pop up right next to you. But also getting you close to the water by doing scenic cruising in zodiacs and plus more. It's just an incredible experience to explore more of the world in a different way. But going back to our experts in expedition, we go to over 250 destinations today. But don't worry, we no longer use that ship. So our ships have been improved much, much more in the 130 years.
I think that's what, one of the misconceptions, like we're going deadliest catch style here.
Yeah.
And they started out like that, but that's not how guests are going today.
No. And that's what I do love to show this picture, because how many companies have the picture of their very first ship? Well, I guess in 1896, especially, right?
Yeah.
And you can see somebody, in a kayak between that little bit of that tiny iceberg there. And we still do that today. I was just doing that in Greenland. So it's pretty cool. And I'm going to show you, don't worry, I'll show you our ships and how we've come and what we can offer today. But I point out IACO and IATO, and these are the organizations make up the rules and regulations for the Arctic and Antarctic. And we are founding members of these two organizations, but also sit on the board to this day. Now, that's a very, very important, because we want to make sure that these areas are protected and we keep them protected. So it's a huge deal, and we're the only company that can say that we're founding members as well as sitting on the board today. But if you are a curious mind, we are the perfect expedition line for you as well. We've had scientific collaboration since 1902, and we have science boats that go out and actually conduct real research. We have anywhere from 12 to 26 staff scientists on board. It depends on the size of the ship. So the smaller the ship, the smaller, scientific team will be on there. But it's great for people who want to go on vacation, but still learn and expand their minds. So I can go in a little bit more detail about that as well. But if you're a birder, we are the exclusive travel provider for the Audubon Society. It's a great way for you to go and see the northernmost penguin in the Galápagos or the southernmost penguin in Antarctica. And then we also have places in the Aleutian Islands where you can find specific birds only on one island, or going to see the terns up in Svalbard nesting as they swoop at you. There's so many different birds all over the world, and we can help you with the extra ornithologists that we bring on for that. Now, mindful travel, we hear about sustainability so much in today's world, and a lot of people are greenwashing, but I can guarantee you that we do not do that. We have the highest ESG rating than any other expedition line in the world. That is published if you'd like to learn more about us, but we are trying to keep these places pristine in the most mindful way possible. And I'll get into more detail of showing our ship.
I think that term too is relatively new. What is greenwashing, and where? I mean, you kind of said, how does HX stand apart?
So we are the most transparent with our ESG report, showing our amount of food waste, the amount of emissions per guest, our ship's emissions. We were the first to have hybrid-powered expedition ships in the world, and our ships are considered the most sustainable in the world to this date. And I will show you pictures of that. We also sustainably source our food. So over 75% of our food is sustainably sourced. We're not shipping containers from all over the world to meet us in these ports. If we can get local food and help those local communities and the local farmers and fishermen, we're going to help them. But then also our guests are eating the fresh, other than something from a container coming from all over the world. And the greenwashing, people claim that they're sustainable, but they're not producing an ESG report. They're not being transparent in what they're doing. So they're saying they're doing something, but that's great, but just produce that, so that's something that we are very, very proud that we do.
And I think that, you hear that a lot too. And I think the modern day traveler is really looking for that intersection, right? Of, a great guest experience, the scientific part, luxury and comfort, but they want to make sure they're not doing more harm than good, right? And that they are having a positive impact on these places that we're visiting. So to know that when you sail with HX, you are going truly with a partner that is top of mind. I think that's really important.
Absolutely. And we have our green stay. So if you do not want housekeeping to come into your cabin, and we donate to the foundation, and that foundation, I mean, we support so many, from communities to different animal aspects, to help just, with the different initiatives all over the world. And you can find that on our website as well. Or, Tiffany, I'm happy to send you the list, and you can send that out to anybody who has questions about that.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And you're part of it. We have an auction on our ships as well. So all of those proceeds go to the foundation, to those different organizations. And sometimes we have voting where you can choose where those different, where the funds go to. So that's really cool as well.
That is cool.
Yeah, I love it. And just going back to Greenland, we did donate a few €100 to a community to help with schools and supplies and things. And we were able to see that presented while we were on the trip. So that was a really nice.
Special. Yeah,
it was really, really nice. So, but going back to where we go, because these are those places that people do not realize are, attainable, I guess you could say. Yeah. Iceland, of course, everybody knows Iceland. We go there. We have circumnavigations of the island. It's a fantastic experience because you can't get to some of these places via car. So if you wanted to do a car trip and then come with us, circumnavigation the island on one of our ships, that's a really cool way of doing it. But as you can see, up in Svalbard, we do the circumnavigation to this day, our flagship trip. We go to the east coast and west coast of Greenland, up through the Northwest Passage, the Aleutian Islands and Nome, all the way down to the Galápagos and Patagonia, of course, Antarctica. And we take more people to Antarctica than any other company. So please choose us as your Antarctica supplier. You will not be, it's just an incredible experience. And I have pictures to show. But then also the British Isles. People did not realize that you can, do an expedition cruise around the British Isles. And I know we just added more itineraries around there. And then you never would think of doing kayaking along the Norwegian coast under the Northern Lights and going to private islands that are run by locals it's just all these bespoke experiences for you along the Norwegian coast in an expedition product. So there's so much for you to enjoy, and Tiffany can bring it all to you. And if you have any questions, we have tons of itineraries, but only limited time to present it today. So definitely consider some of these destinations. But if you're looking, and we'll go back into that adventure, comfort, and sustainability aspect, we are the perfect balance. Some companies do one really well, some do two really well, but we do all three extremely well. You're going on an expedition to have an adventure. You want to be off the ship as much as possible, and that's what we strive to do. I actually experienced this just last week, walking on an ice cap just like this last week. It was awesome. If you're thinking about, just going to the very, very north of the planet and just walking on a floating piece of ice, it's like an experience like no other. Now I can say I've done it in Antarctica as well as in Greenland. So that was pretty cool. I love that. But then also the biggest misconception, to your point, Tiffany, you were saying, our ships have come a long way. It's more of a boutique feel. Come back from your Zodiac ride or your scenic cruise or your landing and just come and grab a drink or a coffee or a tea and just enjoy the floor to ceiling windows. Our lounges, our cabins, our restaurants are just all very, very boutique, very, very comfortable, Scandi chic, which I love. And then, of course, the hybrid power ships. Now, this ship and the sister ship are considered the most sustainable in the world. And what I love about these ships, they can go 22,000 miles without filling up. They're hybrid, the first and only hybrid powered expedition ships in the world. And what I love is that you're sailing in complete silence. So going into these hard to reach places in just complete silence, hearing the cracking of the glacier and hearing the whales as they come up to breathe. It's like no other. It's pretty awesome. And of course, that helps with the sustainability aspect of not having those emissions. But like I was saying, some people just completely forget about the other pillar of sustainability, which are the communities that are impacted by tourism. And we're hearing this term over tourism, but with these destinations that we go to, they're still brand new. Greenland, I was on a plane that was only the third commercial plane from US soil to ever touch down. Get to Greenland now because it's going to change, as tourism grows. But we were working with local farmers and local fishermen to sustainably source that. We worked with the local communities, and I have pictures from our local community visits, which were just so life-changing and awesome to meet the incredible people of Greenland.
And I bet they're just so excited to have the guests and really show them the way that they live. And I know that there are some very unique experiences that HX offers really to get in with the community. And I think, again, when you talk about this way of travel, that's very different than I think when you look at other ways to travel, right? That's part of expedition is the immersion. And I think that's what you hit on very well, right? That you're going to get these one-of-a-kind experiences and really get to know the communities that you're traveling to.
Absolutely. And some of the destinations will have more of a community focus, right? If places like Antarctica, for instance, they're not going to have community. Right. So you're going to get up close and personal with the penguins and the seals and, all of those. But in places like Alaska or places like Greenland or the Galápagos, you really will get a community aspect. In Greenland, it was probably the most that I saw. And, pulling up to someone's home port or home, town with somebody on the ship, it was just awesome. The way that people greet you is completely different than if you were just a regular cruise ship pulling up to that specific area. They had their families come on board and tour the ship. And it was an awesome experience. I loved it. And the kids, sometimes it was the first time they were ever on a ship like that. So to see the joy in their eyes, it's the exchange of both of our worlds, right? So it was a lot of fun. And then our fleet that gets you to all these incredible destinations. We have 3 ships that go from the Arctic to Antarctic. They range from 500 passengers down to 200 passengers. Our Spitsbergen ship stays in the Arctic, and that's 160 passengers. And then we have our Santa Cruz 2 that stays in the Galápagos at 90 passengers. So all very, very well-equipped ships, all purposely built for expedition. And you're probably like, well, what does that mean? And I'm going to show you some pictures. And Tiffany, I know you'll probably get into some questions about that as well.
Yeah.
But getting into a little bit more of the comfort is the onboard ships. The onboard amenities, you'll have lecture halls that you can go and watch all of our staff scientists and guest scientists do lectures. So whether it's on glaciers, on why they're formed, or the different flora and fauna and the experiences that you have in those destinations, it's very tailored to the destination. So if you're going to Antarctica, you're not going to learn about polar bears because there are no polar bears there. And when you go to, when you go to Svalbard or Greenland, you're not going to learn about penguins. So it's that sort of thing. It's all going to be tailored to those destinations. But another picture of our science center, I call this the Teens Club for adults. And this really is the heart of it. And it's just an incredible experience because people bring out their inner scientist, and going out on our science boats that collect the water samples, and you can come through and see the scientists talk about all those samples that are recorded. It's real research because it's very expensive to get to some of these destinations, and our ships go there, weekly or monthly. So it's accurate data that we can collect for them.
So you really are a part of this sort of citizen scientist program, right? Where you are participating. And, you touched on a couple of things. So You've mentioned a few ologists, and unless
Yep.
you're in the business, right? It's like, all of these scientists with a lot of letters probably behind their names, right?
Mhm.
And I think the important thing is it's you've got all of these experts, right? From the water to the animals to just how you are doing these destinations that are also just right there with the guests, right? So yes, there's the lectures and you get to, they're around all the time, right? They're on
Mhm.
your expeditions with you. They're probably sitting at dinner with you, right? Where you can have a one-on-one conversation with them and really learn more about that. I mean, I think that part of the experience, if you can talk a little bit more about how they interact with the guests, I mean, that's so unique.
Yeah, so they're your hosts on and off the water. They'll be taking you on the scenic cruises and they'll be pointing out. So, if there's a specific bird colony, they'll talk about the different birds and why they're interacting or why they're reacting certain ways. They'll talk about the type of lichen or moss on the rocks. Sometimes I remember I was in Antarctica and I saw a leopard seal play with a penguin from start to finish. And it was, incredible sight to see. But the one of the marine biologists was there talking it from, start to finish and just explaining what was happening in case anybody had any questions. But that's what they're there for. And they will give the lectures. They'll be there for questions. They'll be in the science centers with you. It's an incredible experience. They're there to help you, and just to help add to your journey.
Awesome.
Yeah. And then again, that boutique feel where you can come and relax. We have saunas, a spa, indoor and outdoor gym, so you never miss a workout if you'd like, if that's your thing. um,
And I will say too, it's like how much, it's so good to have those amenities on board because I know they get used. I've been on an expedition to the Galapagos and it is very active, right? And so between, you can have up to potentially 3 excursions a day. So it's, you think you're going to use that gym, but you may not because between all the hiking and kayaking and, getting in and out of the Zodiac, you are very active and really as active as you want to be. But I love that you have that feature too, because it really is all about overall wellness. So people
yes.
don't have to leave their routines, even when they're in Antarctica.
Absolutely. And believe me, I got a massage. I wish I would have gotten more, but like you said, we're so busy that I was like, oh, I don't have time. I was listening to lectures and going out and looking at the different wildlife. And, you want to use all these amenities, but it's like there's so much to do.
Yes.
But
And I think this picture is great too, right? You can sort of be on that hardcore exploration, but you can come and have your glass of champagne with this view.
Yes, yes. So we have the infinity pool and the 2 hot tubs on 2 of the ships, and then all of our ships will have hot tubs. So, but this was used. There was a really, really beautiful French family with a few teenagers on board, and so they were loving the pool after all the landings, and it was just a really, really fun time. They were just a fun family. They were getting everybody involved. They're like, woohoo! And then we do have some private fire or some private jacuzzis in some of the cabins as well. So if you don't want to share, we have that option for you. But a
Truly
lot of
something
people.
for everyone.
Oh, exactly. A little bit of something, but you never felt like these were crowded at all. When I would come out and look at them, maybe there'd be 1 or 2 people in there. Just the French family stuck out because they were so fun, and it was 4 kids total. And I think they were like anywhere from like 22 to 13. And they were just all having fun in the pool. So that was a good time. So we're very family friendly as well. But there are age restrictions for some of the destinations if you're interested. Now, according to what ship you're on, we're going to have different categories. Only 2 of our ships will have inside cabins. So, but all of our other ships will have outdoors. So you'll have a window of some sort or a balcony, which is really nice. And if you book with Tiffany, she does have an exclusive onboard credit benefit. So that way, when you do book with her, she will be able to apply that to your booking, which is really nice. And remember what I was saying about some of those suites. Some of those suites have your own private fireplace, your own private jacuzzi. on the deck. What's really nice about the suites as well is that you get laundry included every day. Now, I know that sounds funny, but when you're on an expedition, and most expeditions are about 2 weeks long, it's hard to pack for 2 weeks, right? So it's so nice that you can put out laundry every day if you wanted to, because it's all included with the expedition suites. And you also get an exclusive restaurant. So if you did not want to go with, the other people down in some of the other cabins, you can just walk in your the staff in all over the ship are incredible, but they will remember everything. When you sit down, they bring you your drink. They know exactly what you're looking for. So it's a really, really great experience. And our price point is very desirable for everything. Even the expedition suites are extremely desirable. So definitely contact Tiffany for those. And she will tell you all the amenities that you do get with the expedition suites.
And Julia, I'm so glad you touched on the laundry and the packing, because I think, and you may get into it a little bit more in detail. I think that is the biggest question, right? Like, how do you pack for something like this? Is this fancy? Am I casual? And is there anything included? Like, do I got to bring my huge coat? Do I got to bring my own boots? Like, what am I bringing here? So, and I think HX includes a lot of things that you would not think are included. So I can't wait to hear about what do I pack and what do I not pack?
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, due to some of the flight delays, some people didn't have baggage. So I felt really bad for them, but they were able to. We have a shop on board. So if you forget anything, you can always buy things on board, or you can use that laundry service. And then, of course, according to the areas of where you're traveling to, that's what's going to determine your packing list. And we have those packing lists on our website. And Tiffany, you have access to those too. And just in case, depending, it's destination specific. Obviously, you're not going to need a parka for the Galápagos. You're not going to need boots for the Galápagos, only when you're in those turtle sanctuaries. But they are provided for you, so you don't have to bring any of those. But I'll get to that actually too. And the restaurants, I'll just briefly touch on the restaurants. We can accommodate vegan, vegetarian, pescatarian, carnivore diet, as well as any dietary restrictions. So just let Tiffany know and she'll be able to assist you. And we can work with the food and beverage manager as well as the chefs. But to answer your question, yes, we include so many things. We are an all-inclusive experience. So meaning all of your meals, all of your drinks, and yes, that does include alcohol and cocktails and so forth. Gratuities are also included. You get an expedition or an excursion per day. And I can touch on that a little bit as well, meaning in places with infrastructure like Iceland or Alaska, there'll be more than one thing that we'll do per day. So we'll include at least one of those, and then we have other options for you. But in places like Antarctica, for instance, you're going to go on the scenic cruising, the landings, everything is included with all of that. And then we do provide a jacket for you to use and to keep as your souvenir. If you buy a jacket, you get a free expedition. So it's a great win-win, And then also a water bottle for you to use and to keep as well. Because with sustainability, we have no single-use plastics on board, and we have water stations everywhere. And then, of course, the Science Center, we include Wi-Fi, Starlink Wi-Fi, no additional cost for that, and does not matter how many devices are connected. And then, of course, our logbook. And this is a fan favorite because we have professional photographers on board that are taking video as well as photos. So you can be in the moment. And if you don't get that exact shot that you're looking for, I'm sure the photographer has gotten it for you. And you get all of that sent to you after your trip. So, and I can show you an example if you're interested too. So going back to the expedition team, you were saying this is just one of the expedition teams that I had on my trip to Svalbard. They're all very, very, this was more of the professional photo, but we have fun photos too that they take. But I wanted to show you, they're all ranging in their different, glaciologists, ornithology, marine biology, geologists, everything. And then even the professional photographers, historians, archaeologists, all of the fun things that they educate you on board. Now, going back to the citizen science too, this is part of something that you would get in the logbook. So these are actual samples that they picked up in what are the water samples. And you can go through in the microscope and you look at this, and this is on the screen, and they talk about it and why it's important and why they're looking for it. So like I said, you're feeding your mind as well as your body and everything on this vacation. It's it's really, really neat. Now, Tiffany, I know you've asked me about this for clients to the expedition launch. It's a little bit, people are a little bit nervous about that because they don't know what to expect. So all of our ships, and we have 130 years of expedition experience. So we've perfected the launch of the Zodiac, the way that clients get onto the Zodiac. As you can see, the platform comes down to water level, and we do everything mid-ship because it's the least amount of water movement. So what we do is we bring the Zodiacs from the garage up to the platform. And I say, if you can walk up or down a few stairs, it's very simple to get onto the Zodiac. So we will always be using that sailor's grip on and off, and you're on. So it's pretty good. It's pretty easy to do.
And I think that's really important too. And they are very mindful of that on and off, right? So even if you think you can get on yourself, they're like, no, you got to do the sailor's grip. You got to make sure that there's someone there, helping you, and there's always someone right behind. And so it makes you more comfortable, right? You're not going to be like, am I going to fall into the freezing water here in Antarctica unless I'm doing the polar plunge, right? Or in the Arctic. Yeah. So if you want to go in, you can, but you're not going to fall in.
And we do offer the polar plunge. So you absolutely can, but not when you're getting into the Zodiac. That's not right. You're going to have stairs. You're going to have two people assisting you at all times. Like we have done this for so many years, and I'm not going to jinx ourselves right now, but you know what I was going to say. And I'm just going to briefly touch on partnerships before I get into the fun stuff. Of course, the videos or the photos of the trips, but the partnerships that we do have, and something that Tiffany can assist you with this. So Metropolitan Touring are the founders of Galápagos Cruising. They've been in the Galápagos for 70 years, and we have purchased 25% of that company. So when you are going to the Galápagos, you are going with the founders of Galápagos Cruising. Now, that might not sound important, but that's a crucial thing because they know the Galápagos inside and out and give you the best experience possible. And of course, we add our HX, touch on that as well. You can do pre-Machu Picchu or Mashpi Lodge. You can do Amazon lodges. You can even do Easter Island trips when you do some of our trips. So contact Tiffany for all of those pre and posts, but it's an incredible partnership that we do have, as well as Audubon. So like I said, if you are a birder and you're looking for specific birds or extra ornithologists to be on board with you, definitely look into some of those journeys. And if you are an AARP member, Tiffany can get you that 5% discount on all of the HX, as well as that onboard credit benefit. So take advantage.
You got to be proud of your age and use it for a discount.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you have to contact Tiffany to get this. So that's something I wanted to point out. And also, if you're a solo traveler, people are like, well, I want to go, but I'm alone. Don't worry about that. 20% of our travelers are solo travelers, because you know why? Their spouse or their partner or their friends or whatever, they don't have people that want to go or have to go with them. So, but they still want to go to these bucket list destinations. Take advantage of our no single supplement waivers or very, very low supplements. They're as low as 25%. And I know other companies charge a lot more for that. So Tiffany will be able to assist you with all of that. Just know that we do offer those no solo supplement waivers and offers.
And I think too, that's a really important point. You kind of hit on it. So solo travel is booming, right? Like you said, people are no longer waiting for someone else to join them. They want to get out there. They want to see the world. And I think the other thing to point out is, because of the amount of people that you do carry on most of your ships, right? You typically lower numbers depending on where you're going. So yes, you are alone, but you don't have to be alone, right? Everyone is so inviting when you are at breakfast, lunch, or dinner. You meet all these people because, you kind of become close, right? On board, and you're out on the zodiacs with them, you're doing different excursions, you're eating meals together. So I have seen personally, right, just people inviting others to sit with them, get to know them. So of course, if you want to be by yourself, you can, but once you're there, and I know we're going to talk about this, HX takes care of everything end to end, but then there is the community on board too, that so you're not, even though you're alone, you're not alone, right? And I think that's really comforting, especially when you're talking about some of the ends of the earth destinations, right? It's like, I want to go, but I don't really want to feel like I'm by myself, and you're not, right? You're with a whole group, from HX to the people on board that are really taking care of you.
And thank you for bringing that up too, and that you put it a lot. I forgot to really just say that, because I'm so used to solo travel, and you put it perfectly. You are not alone. It's extremely empowering, first of all, because you are with other people who are solo travelers. And so we have a meetup the first night, hey, solo travelers, let's all meet up. And sometimes you're like, hey, let's hang out. And sometimes you're like, stay away from me, but whatever, like if you want to find somebody to eat with, absolutely. You are with people of like mind. This is an experience, and this is why Expedition and HX is so awesome, is because you're having these incredible experiences that, I know it sounds cliche, but it's life-changing. It really is. You're out there on the observation decks watching whales come up, and just fluke, they have their tails come up, or you're watching different wildlife all over the place. We saw 3 polar bears while in Greenland on the ice, on the sea ice. It was just so special. Everyone's like, oh my gosh, seeing the musk ox, and we're all talking about, the same things that we experienced that day. So, I did meet 3 ladies who were solo travelers that met in Antarctica. And then they said, you know what? Do you want to meet in Svalbard next year? And they did. And I met them on my Svalbard trip. So they're travel buddies, but they're all solo travelers. So you never know who you could meet. It's a lot of fun.
And I think, you said it nicely too, like, it can be cliche, right? Like, it's life changing, but anyone who's ever done this, right? It shifts you in a way you can not explain. And I think too, the other part of some of this is, you are going to places, not all of them, right? When you get to some of the itineraries, but when you look at some of the places, very few people in this world will ever get to, right? So when you think about that, and you think about how big the world is, yet how small it is, and the fact that we can go to these places, but yet in reality, very few people are going to get to. So I think having the opportunity to do that, again, it changes you in a way that this live sessions we're going to try to explain, but until you do it and see it, you can't explain it.
And I'm going to show you a bunch of pictures right now, and it's not going to even grasp the size and scale and just how incredible these places truly are. Mm-hmm. And you have to go now, because every day is a gift. You never, ever know. And Tiffany, to your point, less than 1% of the world's population will ever step foot in some of these destinations. More people have summited Everest than have been to places like the Northwest Passage, or, some of the Aleutian Islands. St. Matthew's Island is less visited than the top of Mount Everest. So it's like, you get to these destinations. They're absolutely incredible.
Right. There's probably very few things that most of us can say, I'm in the top 1% of something in this world. This can be one of them. So if you want to be a 1%er, you got to go to Antarctica, so you can claim that title.
And the Northwest Passage, and then St. Matthew's Island, and then we can make it happen. And Tiffany, you can make that happen for them, and it'll just create that FOMO for all of their friends and family. And they're like, I want to go too, because their videos and their pictures and their storytelling, they will come back changed. So that's the type of thing.
Before you get into the pictures, which I want to get into real quick, one thing I wanted to hit on. So if anyone's ever been on, HX's website, or if you've ever looked at Antarctica, the Arctic, the Northwest Passage, and you look at the itineraries, compared to if you've ever looked at an itinerary for any other cruise, right? Whether it be an ocean cruise, a river cruise, typically those are very detailed. It kind of, you have, when you're getting there, when you're leaving, kind of exactly what you're doing. And for some of the expeditions and places, HX has that too. However, when you get to some of these places, you'll notice it's very general in the itinerary, right? And there's a reason for that. And so maybe you can hit on, you have your general plan and you have your itinerary, but there is a reason this is an expedition and there is a reason you are exploring, which could mean things could change. So maybe you could just elaborate on, well, why don't I see my detailed, what I'm doing every hour on the hour in Antarctica and exactly where I'm going? Why is that not there?
And, that's a great segue because I took some of these from the log books. So this was my circumnavigation of Svalbard. And you can see there's like a big, arrow or a triangle at the top. And you're kind of like, well, why are you so far north? Well, because what we did is, yes, we went on that plan A, but sometimes plan A doesn't work. So they have to go to plan B or plan C, or they have this incredible opportunity and they're going to be like, let's try to do it. So for instance, that triangle, that was the edge of the sea ice. And so they wanted to see how far north they could get and see how far we could get into the sea ice before, the ship couldn't go anymore. And that's why they went up that way. So this is something that's part of the logbook as well. It's a lot more beautiful than what I'm presenting right now, but it's just kind of that journey, that all of those dots are the landings for this specific itinerary. And you'll have that day by day with pictures, day by day included. So hopefully that explains that a little bit too.
Yes.
And sometimes it's weather permitting too. Sometimes the weather won't allow you, or sometimes there's too much ice. And, if you're in places with a lot of sea ice, it's blocking a certain port and you can't get in, or the fog, you can't get the zodiacs there. And for places like Svalbard, where it's polar bear country, if you can't spot a polar bear from a certain distance, you're not going to be able to get on land, because if you do not want to come super close to a polar bear, just put it that way. The safety is number one. So that's the reason for it. It's weather permitting. Sometimes there's different opportunities that may be amazing, or you see something that you want to check out a little bit longer, but that's the beauty of expedition. So
that's the exciting part.
Absolutely. And just showing some of the pictures from that journey. This is one of the most famous glaciers there. And they're all very long names. So I will not even try to attempt to speak, say them, because I do not speak Norwegian. But Svalbard is a very, very harsh environment. There are only a few settlements. The northernmost settlement is Longyearbyen. And then also there's a scientific research center, New Allison. And there's a ton of history where a lot of people have attempted the North Pole, but you're going to see Svalbard with tons and tons of mountainous, pointy mountains. That's actually what Spitsbergen means in Dutch. It means pointy mountain, and Svalbard in Norwegian means the cold place. So it's very, very fitting for both of those names. You'll see tons of different types of glaciers, tons of mountains. You'll see different hunters' retreats. And these were used by hunters for hundreds of years to go and trap fox fur, because the fox actually get different fur in the winter and the summer. So they get their summer coat and their winter coat. And their winter coats are worth more because they're white. But in the summer, they turn to like a gray or like a light brown. So they spend winters in these dwellings, as you can see here, to get those. But just to show you a little bit of the landscape of Svalbard, these pictures don't even do it justice, and I can tell you all about it, but this is just, you will see polar bears. Hopefully, it's nature. You can't guarantee anything. And in Svalbard, they are extremely protected. So if you have binoculars, or if you have those very high, the high lenses or the big lenses for your camera, take those with you on Svalbard, because sometimes that's the only way that you're going to see them up close. You have to stay a certain amount of distance from these animals because they are so protected. But sometimes you get lucky and they come right next to the ship, but you can't guarantee any of it. But just showing you the polar bears, there are more polar bears than people in Svalbard. And then the walrus are just incredible to witness as well. And then one of the viewing decks, you can see observing the sea ice, and you never know. There could be seals laying on this. There could be whales, belugas. We saw over 200 belugas on my journey that come up right next to you, and you're right on the ship. And you have an unobstructed 180-degree view. It's absolutely awesome. And of course, another picture of the polar bear and the glaciers, like just the landscape alone. And then you have all this incredible nature on top of it. Now, going to Antarctica, because I know that's a destination that many people want to go to. This is one of our shortest itineraries that leads from Ushuaia all the way into the peninsula. And of course, people always think of the penguins when they think of Antarctica. And they will porpoise right underneath you, next to you. They will walk right next to you. It's really cool to witness. And whatever glaciers you've ever seen in your lifetime will never compare to what you experience in Antarctica. The mountains you have seen covered in glaciers and snow, you will never, ever see until Antarctica. It is just absolutely the light that comes off the mountains. And of course, you do have that midnight sun down there. It is just an incredible, incredible place down in Antarctica. And there are 3 different seasons for Antarctica. So depending on what you want to see and experience, that's what you will do. And in case you don't know what this is a whale. But they're everywhere down there. And you get the whales towards the end of the Antarctic season, the whale migration. It looks a little bit like Svalbard, but it's Antarctica. And of course, the chin strap penguins, one of the 3 brush-tailed penguins you will experience down in that area. Now, getting to Greenland, because I just got off this journey, and I did want to open up for questions too. I don't want to just be talking so much at you. But this itinerary really combined a lot of the community visits, but as well as the sites. We went to a lot of different settlements. We started in Nuuk, and like I had alluded to, I was on a flight from Newark, New Jersey, up to Nuuk. It was 3.5 hours to get there. We include that flight. So if you are interested, you just get yourself to Newark and everything is taken care of from there. But we also have flights from Reykjavik and Copenhagen and all of that included as well. But this journey, this is a snow bunting. And I just thought that this was such a beautiful bird. And I've never seen them before. So I had to go to Greenland to see a snow bunting. So cute. They were so cute. And this is in Ilulissat, which is a World Heritage. This is where the fjord is covered in icebergs. And the icebergs are stuck because of the depth of the sea there. But then in the summer, you have this contrast of the green and the rocks and the different icebergs, and it's such a beautiful, beautiful landscape. And incredible pictures, and I wish I could spend more time here. It was just beautiful. And then puppies, of course.
Oh my gosh, just stop there. All you need is this picture.
I know. I was obsessed with all the puppies. Now, a fun fact. You cannot have any of these sled dogs go below the Arctic Circle, and they cannot leave Greenland. If they do, they can never come back. And this is the most pure breed in the world. They want to keep it that way. So no other dog other than a sled dog can be above the Arctic Circle in Greenland. And these puppies, they're not chained or they're not tied up or anything. They're just let around to roam around to be socialized. And just to get used to people and used to the environment. And it was so much fun when you just had puppies come up to you and oh my gosh, I was in heaven. I love the puppies so much.
That's so interesting about the breed and not being able to get in or out, but that makes sense. See, that's a fun fact at a dinner party you can just throw out there.
Yeah. And these are things you learn, right? Just by traveling. It's pretty cool, but they're the cutest. And I was going on puppy sightings. I was just like, who wants to go find puppies? And we would walk around and look for puppies. And these little auks. So there are approximately 33 million that are in Greenland, and they actually left Iceland. There are none left in Iceland, and they've all moved north because of their food source. They eat a certain copepod, and it's only found in this area. So a lot of them have migrated up, and scientists have been researching them, and you'll see millions of them on your trip. And then, of course, the icebergs, they're everywhere. It's just incredible. And then the settlements. It's like going back in time. You're meeting people that still hunt with harpoons and still hunt from kayaks and, use just all the resources surrounding them without the modern amenities. It's really an incredible experience. And please go before all of this is not going to be there anymore. And the communities are just rich in history and tradition. And they were so happy to show the traditional dress made from polar bear, sealskin, fox fur. And when they hunt, they use every single part of the animal. Nothing goes to waste at all. It is all very, very sustainable. And that's how they've lived for hundreds and hundreds of years. And I could go into more detail, but just wanted to share that beautiful woman and her traditional dress. And then also this is a typical sight that you see, some of the icebergs just coming out. And as the summer goes along, that ice will melt and then it'll come back, in the fall and the winter. And then there are waterfalls from all the snow melt and glacial melt. And then, of course, kayaking. We kayak in all of our destinations. So if that's something that you would love to do, we do offer that. And then, of course, I thought this was a cool shot coming right by the ship, the kayakers coming right by the ship.
That's amazing.
And then, this is the beautiful colored houses, all the different colors. They used to have meaning, but now it's just kind of like you can't have the same color as your neighbor. And then, but all the houses are so colorful and the people are amazing. And then you just have these huge icebergs in your backyard. It's pretty incredible to see. But this was very memorable. My team picture, I play soccer, and I got to play with the local on one of the stops. They have a game of soccer against the locals. So it's HX against the locals.
Did you score? Did you score?
I did not score, but actually the locals kicked our butt. And they were trying to have they were trying to be nice and say, let's let them win. And it became so competitive, but it was just so much fun where the entire community came out, either watched or played. It was like 25v25 on this field. It was awesome. It was such a fun and a huge highlight for me. And a lot of people too. A lot of people just had so much fun watching.
Well, I have a question here. Well, actually, so my daughter is a soccer player who is 8 years old. And so like this would be a highlight for her. And you kind of, I know we're getting to the end of our time, and I wanted to just briefly touch on this too. You mentioned kids and families, right? And so I think right now you see a lot of multi-generational families that are traveling together. Of course, kids that are in school, have their breaks. You also have a huge movement of, homeschooling and getting people out there to really see the world. So what is it like as, having kids on board? And obviously there are some age restrictions depending on, where you're going, but can you talk a little bit about that and the kids and obviously the programming, or there's a whole science center for them as well. So
yeah, it's really a hands-on approach. So when you want to take kids out of school, you want them to be able to learn. So you're taking them to destinations that you have actual real scientists that are experts in their field. You're taking them to destinations. You are learning more by traveling and by putting them in this environment than anything they will ever learn in a classroom or by reading. And the beauty of that is that they will carry that with them. They'll be a world citizen. They will learn how to interact with different cultures and different traditions and to navigate travel. But then also our age limits for the Galápagos is 6. The age requirements are 5 and up. But I wouldn't recommend really taking a 5-year-old to Antarctica, but hey, everybody's different, right? I want you to enjoy your trip and not worry about, but it's also up to the captain's discretion if they are allowed on the Zodiacs or not. So that's something to consider. But we do see a lot of curious I want to take my nieces, they're 9 and 7. And I know my 9-year-old niece would love every single aspect of this trip. She loves birds. She loves animals. She loves talking to people and learning. And kids really enjoy it. And even if they're not into the science part, in school, you would say, they will be so curious once they get on board because it's going to be more hands-on. I mean, what science class is taking you out on a zodiac to take samples? No other science class is doing that, but you can on HX. So it's good for actually the French family that I was talking about was a multi-generational. The grandparents had paid for their kids and their grandkids, and everybody had an amazing time. And I've seen that, with all cultures. I've seen it with American families on board, and I've seen it with, English families on board. So it's a big, big trend, and we do have connecting rooms. So.
Well, and I think that actually maybe leads into my last question here around families, large groups, right? If you've got a large group in your family or friends, or even, on this live, right? Like business leaders, right? You're looking at taking, your company, or what does that look like to do a group? And, how is that different than just traveling, with just one or two people?
Yeah, well, we definitely have group amenities on board for you. So we will try to get you in the same zodiac, I guess you could say, the same group. So if you're in the narwhal group or the, baleen whale, they're all the different groups are named different things. So they'll try to get you in that same group. Now, if you have more people in your group that's more than 10 passengers, obviously you're going to have your own separate zodiac. You can't put 20 people on a zodiac, but they will try to bring you all together and try to get you close, depending on what room categories and things like that. But it's a very small ship environment. You're going to see everybody everywhere, and your group will mix with all the other passengers. They always do, because you meet so many amazing people. So that'll be the really
large enough group. You could charter the ship, right?
Absolutely. So
that's amazing. Well, Julia, I know we're at our time here. And so I just have to say, thank you so much for the conversation and for sharing this, right? And I mean, the picture that we're ending on, could it be any better than this? Like a soccer game in Greenland?
It was an amazing experience, and you too can have that experience as well. So yeah, it's pretty great.
Oh, well, we'll pull up our last slide here. If anyone wants more information on HX, all the things that Julia covered today, there's the website right there. My website's right there. You can scan the QR code, and it's going to take you to some beautiful options on their itineraries and things that Julia kind of just hit on today, because there's no way we can cover all of it in 60 minutes. So if you want to learn more, please reach out. Let me know if you have any questions. And Julia, again, thank you. You have just brought so much expertise and knowledge and excitement to this type of travel. So I just cannot be more thankful that you joined us today.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, and I'm excited to get you all on board. So thank you.
I can't wait to see everyone's pictures.
Absolutely.
All right. Have a good day. Thanks.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.